Welcome to our web exclusive. I'm Mike Montecalvo, along with Eyewitness News analyst Lieutenant General Reginald Centracchio. General, we're going to talk about, at least at the beginning, border control crisis, and it's getting ramped up as the weeks are going on. President is actually facing opposition from his own party in Congress on proposals to water down a 2008 law that is on the books. What's the concerning part here for you?
I think it's a very complex scenario that we're looking at. One has to do with the humanitarian aspect, certainly is very sensitive, and the other one has to do with public safety and obviously national security to begin with. Somewhere in the middle of all that has to be a solution. So I think what we're looking at is trying to address it from both extremes, and they'll never do that unless they come to some conclusion. We need to protect the borders, need to have a reliable, dependable immigration system, and we need to make sure that we don't allow terrorists to get in, as well as to have a possible bioterrorism scenario to deal with.
Well, the 2008 law combats the trafficking, human trafficking of children, for example. Now, the question is, General, that the law allows kids from Guatemala, Honduras, and El Salvador to return within a week of their arrival to the U.S. rather than holding them. And that's been a big part of all of this, holding all of these.
It has, because the problem is that we don't have the facilities or wherewithal to accomplish what that law requires. And in addition to that, you have the people in the area who have now organized to preclude that from happening to begin with. And then you have militias. Obviously, they're starting to come up to look at some violence, hopefully not. But that has much to do with public safety and certainly national security.
All right, that's the president's major challenge now, is national security. How about public safety in, let's say, states like Rhode Island, Massachusetts, Connecticut?
Well, I think if you look at certainly Arizona as well as California, you're seeing the possibilities where people have organized and stopped buses and come up with a physical presence to preclude anybody from coming over past a particular point. That could also certainly happen anywhere in the United States. Is it possible in Rhode Island? Certainly. Probability is perhaps a little bit lower because we don't have the tremendous influx of 50,000 people. But even 100 or 200 people into our society would certainly bring a lot of possibilities forward.
You know, briefly talked about terrorists. You know, years ago they were worried about, gang smuggling and drugs and whatnot. It is a much wider scope at this point.
It is, because there's no way. Now, I know that people will say, well, an 8-year-old kid is not going to become a gang member. But when that 8-year-old kid comes into a society and all of a sudden they gravitate and migrate to an area that does have gangs, you can rest assured that they will eventually grow up to be a gang member. That's a real concern, and we need to address that part.
Bioterrorism a real possibility in all this?
Certainly is. When you look at what we are allowing across the borders, we don't know that any individual, regardless of their age, has been inoculated properly. Probably not against smallpox, which is a remote possibility. Nevertheless, a possibility. Measles, certainly polio, and other things that have been literally eradicated in the United States. We're not sure of what's coming across the border. That needs to be dealt with, I think, first and foremost.
What kind of system needs to be put in place here?
The system needs to be put in place where if we're not going to send them right back, they need to be inoculated, they need to be looked at and treated just as they would be with any other individual coming into the United States on a legitimate basis. But eventually, if they can't migrate into the United States legitimately, they need to be sent back. But initially, we cannot allow a large migration of anybody coming into the United States that would preclude us from having a safe environment as our health systems are concerned.
We got less than a minute, General. Let's switch gears quickly. Israel and Hamas. We saw this week that there are actually now viewing parties. Like we would go and watch the fireworks. People are actually setting up, eating, drinking, and watching the bombing going off. It's crazy.
Alien to us right now, but that actually happened during our Civil War. They used to conduct picnics and parties watching particular battles from time to time. And undoubtedly that is the case here as it relates to the Gaza Strip and different parts of Israel. Because they're not directly involved in it. Until they become all of a sudden the target, that's a different story. Then the picnics end and they get serious about it.
Quickly, ceasefire, yes, no?
I don't see it. They had an opportunity this past week as it related to Egypt's proposal. Hamas said no. They continued to fire missiles, and Israel is going back with a response to that.
All right, General, as always, thank you for your thoughts, and thanks for watching.